Well, hi everybody. Yeah, it's hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Have you talked to I'm curious. I asked my students on Tuesday when I saw them about their Thanksgivings, of course, and I was curious how it went because most of the um, um, what I have to always remind myself of is that the my sense of the world is very much based on like what I get through my connections with social media and reading the news and my little bubble of people and professional stuff. And then I talk to my students and they're like a whole different world, right? And if anything, they're avoiding COVID information. They're avoiding anything bad. They're using social media for entertainment, things like that. And so I was also curious with them about Thanksgiving because if you go by the sort of predominant social media news about Thanksgiving, it was everybody's worst nightmare because it was so different. It was, families that were, small rather than large extended gatherings. People didn't travel. If they did travel, they felt guilty, whatever. And I talked to the students and they're like, I liked it. I like not connecting with my extended family for once, or it was nice because it was quiet, or it was nice that, it wasn't that big of a deal. So, anyway, so I always just like opening things up to the students and sort of getting other perspectives than kind of what I'm normally seeing. So I was just curious how it was for your families. Did you, I mean, for you individually, how it was for you and compared to other years, and if it was a positive, negative, or neutral experience, but also as you've connected with families this week, how this Thanksgiving was for them?
For me, it was my husband has there's 9 siblings and everybody's married with kids, and I always host Thanksgiving. So there's like 40 people at my house, and my house just doesn't really fit 40 people. So it's always just complete chaos the whole time. So this year was just 5 of us, and it was lovely. We sat down and spent a couple hours at the table and just talked, and there was no kids here, and my kids were here, but they're adults, so it was really kind of nice.
Yeah, ours was too. We actually drove to Montana to pick up my son from school because he was going on break. So we were in a cabin in the middle of nowhere with mountains on all sides of us, and we zoomed with family. But we made all the food, and then we got to eat all the leftovers because no one took them home with them. So that was fun and different, and we enjoyed it.
The families that I've been working with this week, they all seem to really enjoy it. They said it was slow and they didn't have to rush around from place to place. And some of them got to actually experience cooking a meal for the first time because they said we've always gone to a relative's house. So they all seemed to really like it. They said it was different, but it was nice.
I met with a class yesterday. They all had infants, so under 8 weeks old. And I think they were all missing family a lot.
Erica, did they do anything to complement? I mean, I've seen pictures where people literally have had the dining table and they've had a computer at the end of the dining table. So they were kind of Zooming family in during the Thanksgiving meal. Did you get anything from them about ways they've worked around it?
I think with the under 8 week infants, I think they're just no, not a lot. Like a grandparent brought some food over for one family. So that was nice, a way to contribute. A lot of Zoom calls, but hard with kids all around. So
I think my children all appreciated having their own family time. We didn't get together, as we would usually do. I made the pumpkin pie that everybody likes and drove it around and dropped it off at everybody's house, and then met my youngest daughter and her partner for a hike up near in the Sherburne Wildlife area near Big Lake. So we did hiking that morning, which I love to do, but I never get to do on Thanksgiving Day because I'm always too busy getting all the food and all of that ready. So I think we all stayed, in our separate family groups. I have 4 children, and it was peaceful. They're all older. There's no young babies. Everyone, grandkids are all between 5 and 12, so they had they just play outside, at their own homes. They have lots to do. So the peacefulness for us, not the busyness, not cooking a lot like Julie, well, cooking, but not the 40 people, as somebody said, Shelley, I think. So that was, I think the feeling of the slower pace was nice.
I think out of all my home visit families, I was just trying to kind of go through them in my mind, and only one of them really had a consistent tradition for Thanksgiving that she looked forward to. The rest kind of said they do different things every year, just depending on the year. So I didn't hear anybody saying that they didn't like it. I think they all found some type of enjoyment in it. And the one who did normally have a Thanksgiving tradition doesn't live near her family anymore, so she needed new ones anyway. And yeah, I didn't hear a lot of negative things about that week or about Thanksgiving from families. Never really thought about it till you asked that question, Susan.
Well, and around Thanksgiving and Christmas, I always let families know that just because they have a baby now, especially for this is their baby's first Christmas, or sometimes if it's a toddler's first Christmas and they had babies last year, I always kind of encourage families that a lot of families really have we have to start this tradition. We have to get this going. And I said, you can do that. But you can also, like, a lot of the things that are traditions in my family just organically happened when my kids were old enough to have memories. I'll never forget the year I did not make those peanut butter blossom cookies, the peanut butter cookies with the Hershey Kiss in the middle. I was just like, nah, I don't, whatever. My children lost their minds. I had to, on Christmas Eve, go to the store and buy kisses because they, so anyway, I don't know that I did. I think that would have been too permissive and overindulgent, but but I just always encourage them. Like, I understand, there may be sadness that you can't do the things you would normally do on Thanksgiving, but also, like, maybe some new traditions will be born out of this, and your kids, So anyway, so that they were like, that makes me feel better, because I think a lot of them were feeling like they had to do the same things they always did in order to feel fulfilled for Thanksgiving. And I think more so for Christmas. I think there are more traditions that happen at Christmas time and Hanukkah. So I just said, just roll with it, guys, and you can resume next year, or you can take whatever new. And I always talk about I want to find that clip. If any of you have that clip of This Is Us, where they're on their way to Thanksgiving and their car breaks down. Carrie, you're laughing. The episode where they went to the gas station and they got hot dogs, and they ate something really weird for Thanksgiving, and then for the future Thanksgivings, they always had hot dogs or something at Thanksgiving. I'm butchering the story, but I really want to find that clip and use that as an example of how traditions can just show up when your kids are 6 or 7 or 8.
And also, the one thing to tell that we can share with them too, because sometimes when those things happen, those turn out to be the best memories and the ones that everyone remembers too. Because we had influenza one year for Christmas here and couldn't go and do anything. And that's still the one the kids talk about the most, that we had the most fun.
Julie, off of what you just said, when we go camping or on vacations, our phrase is a little adversity creates a great memory. So it's just, we don't remember the ones where the perfect weather was when it was perfect and everything went according to plan. It was those things, right? when it's a little adversity, our brain, how much brain studies have we done, ladies? It probably is, that's where it's the Velcro, right? It grabs onto it and it sticks. So yeah.
Well, and I think of sort of the idea of attunement in the sense that, so there is that adversity. There is the thing where you're eating hot dogs instead of, and it's just like, what is it about this that is so wonderful? And I think the contrast to that is the sort of Hallmark holiday. People are together, everything is decorated, sort of that traditional stress of the food and the decorations and the music and making everything perfect, and then that feeling of discomfort that something's missing, like something isn't good enough, or I'm so overwhelmed. It's sort of like you wake up the day after the holiday or whatever, and it's just like, I think I missed it. I don't know what the joy is here because I just feel really overwhelmed. And sort of that so I think sometimes that being thrown off course is a way of understanding like what is really meaningful. Like I didn't need all of that because I have this, or my like the family that's the most important to me, like is together, or that we had some quiet time. We don't have quiet time, or we the power went out. We couldn't be on our devices, so we had to play a game. Oh my gosh, we haven't played a board game in like ever, and sort of getting in touch with that's good, but also kind of pushing back against that. Well, I know other people do these things, or I know on social media, because we do it in my classes, we talk a lot about social comparison, like this is what, but why do I feel weird? Because I don't, but that I'm not enjoying that, like, but other people do, so there's something wrong with me, sort of kind of pushing against that, and just letting it be okay, right? That whatever works for you and works for your family, like that's a good thing.
I just posted a chat, a thing in the chat. It was an NPR podcast from a while ago. I don't even know. It was 2017 from Hidden Brain. And I listened to it, and it talks about how chaos sometimes forces us into new ways of being and doing. The one that sticks in my mind is that there was a story about the London Underground, and I think the London Underground was on strike. And so millions of commuters had to find a different way to get to work. And what they found is when they were forced out of their usual typical ways, they found other better ways to get to work. So I listened to that, and I pulled pieces out of that, and I shared it with families, not this year, but I shared it another time. Sometimes you are forced to do something different, and you find out it feels okay. So I highly recommend that podcast. There's 3 stories that are really, really great. That one's about a piano that had broken keys, and I don't remember the third one, but anyway, it's worth a listen. There's a transcript too if you don't want to listen.
Yeah. Thanks, Helen. Yeah, Hidden Brain is fabulous. It's a topsy-turvy time.
So this is way off subject and way off, but Kim, I see behind you, do you have snow? I don't like snow, but I'm missing the snow right now. It just doesn't feel like December. It feels like the middle of like November or October. It just feels really weird.
Yes, we still have snow on the ground.
Where are you from?
Moose Lake.
We're supposed to get some like on the 12th, Cinnamon, so hold on.
And for me, I can't believe I'm even saying this because I don't like snow and I don't like winter, but it's not December. Like it's just not, it's not normal. It's not normal. I guess this whole world and this whole year is not normal, right? But yeah.
Cinnamon, I'm sure there's a can of something that you can buy and like spray on your windows so that it feels like snow and the rest of us don't have to drive in it.
Yeah. I don't want to drive in it. Exactly. Right. It's just, yeah.
Susan, in response to I had put in the chat, it's a new phrase that we're using at our house. It's a TTT. So whenever something comes up that we're just like being thrown for a loop with, it's for a topsy-turvy time. That's what we're living in. It just was a little bit more lighthearted than I'm tired of pivoting. I'm tired of this isn't working. It's Like, okay, it's a TTT. That's just all I have to say. It feels lighter. I don't know, brings a little joy.
Yeah.
Anyway,
This is great.
And it seems like something you'd share with families.
Super helpful. Yeah, I'm going to bring a lot of this up next week. I have a question on a different topic. Is anyone teaching in person right now, or is everyone virtual?
We here in St. Anthony are still in person. My classes are extremely small. We had them limited to 5 kids. And their one adult could come with them. 2 of my classes have the full 5 kids. One only has 2, and then one is a drop-in, so it varies.
And then I guess my follow-up question right away is if plans for January are already determined to go one way or the other, or up in the air?
We decided to do a J term, and it's all just going to be virtual options for January, and then hopefully come back again in February to some extent.
That's exactly what we're doing too.
Our winter catalog went out and it went out all virtual. So I don't know. They, the district talks about reevaluating in mid-January, but I don't know what that'll mean for us.
Mm-hmm.
I love the J term idea.
Yeah. Go ahead. That is a good, we're all virtual too, but they, our ECFB has been virtual all year. Our preschool went virtual and elementary November 30th, but they said they said it's only through or through Christmas, winter break, and then they'll reevaluate. So I don't know, but I don't know what that means. Like no one said that there's plans in the works to come back or anything. So, and our ECFE is just all virtual right now and very, very low.
Yeah, we tried to offer virtual like parent ed piece, and at the beginning of the year I had 2 classes with about 2 people in each one, and then the second we did a 6-week session, and then we're in our second 6-week session, and I only had 2 of the 4 people sign up for that. So now I'm only down to 1 day of actual virtual parent ed. And we did a couple of one time like sign up, and we're going to talk about like stress and parenting and COVID. And we had like 17 people sign up for the one-time sessions. I think that was easier for them to only commit to one night. So we might offer some more of those, but the other ones are not well attended. Unfortunately, it's just, they're saying it's one more thing to do when the virtual format is not what they like.
thanks for sharing, Anne. We, up here in Cambridge, Isani, we were in person and hybrid all the way up until this Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And our classes were full as we could for hybrid with reducing numbers, but it was like, 8, 10 kids. It was awesome. And then we went to distance and I had 0 babies and 1 family and 1 child. And that's all I've seen all week, just 2 people. And it had been running really, really strong. And so it's like, okay. I don't know where this is coming from, but it is so hard because you don't know if it's something you need to do differently or,
no, Greta,
this
is, I've been telling myself all session, we can't make people who don't want to come in the building happy. Mm-hmm. And we can't make the people who do want to come into the building happy when we go. We're totally stuck between a rock and a hard place in trying to keep ourselves happy and keep our families happy. Someone asked on Friends of Family Ed if they sent out like what kind of survey to send out, and I was like, yeah. So Anne, I didn't even send one out because you know what? I don't want to hear. I'm not kidding. Like, I don't. It's okay. It didn't all suck. A lot of it sucked. I'm just gonna say that. You guys know I don't sugarcoat anything. Some of it was amazing, and some of it was awful. And I do not want to get a survey from a parent that was like, we really didn't like this, or we really didn't like that. I can't, my professional ego or whatever just cannot handle getting critiqued, because I was hard enough on myself. My early childhood educator and I were constantly like, this is really hard, but we have to keep on pushing through. So your tears are warranted. I've cried
Sorry about that.
enough. Like I'm dry now because I'm done. And I also feeling really good because I had my last class today, but none of this is normal, you guys. And we have to give ourselves grace. And I know I keep saying that, but we can't make everybody happy because our program is not meant to be virtual, period.
Right.
It's just not.
Right.
Thank you so much for sharing and being vulnerable.
Right.
I found out that one of our families, because we had to cut our numbers down and we're only allowing, there are other circumstances, but only allowing one child and one adult from each family per class. He was coming to our class with the one child and then going to a neighboring school district where he could bring all of his kids to the same class with him. And it was, like you said, you can't please everyone, but I took it really personally. And now I'm comparing myself to the other program that's allowing a different format. And it's just good to hear that other people are struggling similarly. I mean, our program is very small compared to some of yours, but it's personal. This work is personal. So yeah, it's been really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's personal because of the relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's what makes our work so different from other work.
Right. I know, and we just we've been virtual since the beginning of November, but now this coming Monday we'll start complete virtual, and we put ECFE on the back burner. We don't get to see our ECFE families until the end of January, if that. I mean, we don't get to see them. We're not supposed to stay connected or anything, which is, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm staying connected. Like, I don't care. Like, I am staying connected. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm staying connected. Like, either through my Facebook or my emails. I'm like, no, you guys, if you need anything, please connect with me because I'm here. But it's like, yeah. And like Ellen, I am completely dried out too. I have cried about little things because this just affects you so much. It's just like, and it's not even, sometimes not even about your families or anything that you're working with, but as soon as, like, even with my kids, something like disastrous comes up with them, I just cry, right? Like, this world is just blah right now. It's just hard. It's just hard. And like, yeah, we got to give ourselves the grace that we're going to do this. And you know what, again, too, like, we're not in it for the money, we're in it for our families. And that's why I think we're all here, right? Like, this is why we're all here. And we're supposed to be here. Like, we're not supposed to be doing this virtually. This is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, yeah.
I've been I took some of your ideas from your, the recording that you guys had from last week. And then, so for that J-term session, we're still going to try to connect in various ways. It might not be like a weekly thing, but at least every other week, there'll be something that the parents will get sent to them to just kind of do. We tried it once in November, and it was just, I set out copies of kindness cards. Like, we have a little free library outside of our school, so they could decorate kindness cards. And if they didn't have a printer at home, I sent it virtually too, and then they could pass them out to people or send them in the mail. And then this month they are doing like a winter scavenger hunt. So, and then they can get a candy cane if they bring it back. I stole the idea from the Becker Community Center, was doing stuff like this. And I'm like, oh, I could do something like that. We could get parents to have something to do that's a little fun or a little different with their kids without them having to come up with the ideas. So thank you guys for giving me some of those ideas to keep connected while we still can't see them in person. I think they appreciate those little things. But then, yeah, you can't make everybody happy, because I've also had some people say, this is too overwhelming. I can't do one more thing. And I'm like, no, I don't mean it to be overwhelming. It's just another option. option for you. If you take it, you take it. If you don't, you don't.
I had one class because we were in hybrid and then now we're virtual. And one of my classes, they absolutely did not want to Zoom. There was 3. So Greta, like feeling like, oh shoot, is it me? Like, why not? But so that's kind of what we did with this class is each week we're sending out communication to them with ideas and sent home bags of stuff of, like home learning. But yeah, it is hard to not take it personally. And I think too, like the amount of work it takes to teach hybrid was really a lot. So, it's hard when they don't show up when you move to virtual after you've done all this other work. But I mean, I think you're right. We need to just accept what we have. And now I'm afraid to send out our survey because I'm sending us, Karen's shaking her head because we're sending our surveys out in the next couple of weeks. I don't want to read them, I guess.
Just be sure you drink a glass of wine or like just kind of zen yourself out.
I think
Like,
it's a glass of wine per survey.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure it is.
Put on a rubber suit so it'll just bounce off.
Perfect.
Turn survey drinking or it's survey reading into a drinking game.
wait, lucky when that's driving there, right?
like the bingo card. Parent complained about art project.
That's right. Take a read. We're on it. We can create this.
I'm doing a
Shelly,
We should move our meeting till Friday night, next Friday night. Anybody, like,
Have
all
a
get
happy
together.
We won't.
So let me just I mean, as I know some of you have taken my evaluation course and I also saw the post the other day on Friends of Family Education about, and then I saw Ellen's response. And I've had conversations with a few educators in different districts, very similar to this conversation about sort of being caught in the middle of servicing families and doing the best job that you can to kind of figure out what do my families need. But, when things are normal, then families becomes a collective term. But I think what we're dealing with now is families as a singular term. And I certainly see it with my students, and there's a lot of chatter and sort of workplace stuff that the workers too are individual cases. It isn't like a group of people who are coming to your workplace and you're dealing with them in that way. But every worker who is working from home presents a different situation, right? And a different need. And I think what I'm hearing from you as well is that you have some families that, as Ann was saying, you hold a one topic thing and 17 people show up and that works for them. You have other families that you offer a Zoom thing and they were, coming in person, and then you do Zoom and they're going, not for me. And then for others, it's like, this is my lifeline. This is a consistency. And so I will make this happen. Or they, it's just, you find that you're doing it during nap time and they can make it, but for another family, it doesn't. And so you're doing the best job that you can, and you're listening to what your individual families need, all while you're still figuring out how you're using these technologies and what do families have that are working for them and what works best with your content, yada, yada, yada. So when I hear about data collection at this time, man, I just get the hairs to the back of my neck. And so the main thing that I would ask, either as for an individual who is thinking of collecting data, and especially for an administrator who is asking for data to be collected, is what's the purpose? I mean, it's the question we ask anytime that we do research, we do data collection, but especially when we do evaluation, is kind of comes down to, what do you need to know? And that's going to drive the questions that you ask. It's going to drive who you ask. It's going to drive how you ask, but it especially is going to drive interpretation. And my fear is that standard methods and standard data is being collected when this is not a standard time. And so, for whether you're an administrator or you have the ear of your administrator, I would just, and if they want to talk to me, I'll talk to them. I teach this stuff, but I would just be super cautious to make whatever value, you know, like, because, but also there are different needs. So there may be a high level school district need on number counting and that kind of thing. That's fine. Do it, but you can emotionally remove yourself from it. And your administrator should remove any kind of emotion or assessment of you out of that. Just like if my department chair was to look at the attendance of my students on Tuesdays and Thursdays or something like that, I can remove myself from that. They're showing up or they're not showing up, right? They're young adults, they can make that choice. And yeah, I can take some credit or responsibility for engaging them when they show up. I do that anyway, but this is a numbers game, and that's the way that they ought to be treating it. So I certainly respect when administrators need data collection for their own bean counting and reports to school district officials and things like that. It's something else when they're assessing the quality of program delivery, and especially looking at the performance of an individual educator. So I'll get off my soapbox, but I feel for all of you, like, just so incredibly, and get a little worried, you know, in unusual times when usual data collection methods are being enacted.
Thank
And
you, Susan. You're such a champion.
I was the one that posted that who's doing what for surveys on the Facebook page. And it was solely for my own purpose of trying to figure out, because we're doing that J-term session, trying to figure out what classes people would be interested in coming to it after J-term is over.
Yep.
So it wasn't for anybody else but me. And it was very general, like, I felt safe coming to class. Just very general questions. So
yeah, and that's a good reason. And you're also doing it for yourself. Right?
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, is that a lot of the information that we collect it's for our own purpose, you know, for how we teach and that sort of thing. And it doesn't need to go any further.
One of the surveys I have offered to parents, not required, but offered to them, because they're so limited in often what they have in terms of privacy and what they can say out loud, is just a introductory parent survey at the beginning of each term of my classes, to ask, like, you know, who are you? Who are your kids? Why did you sign up? It's all, they can do it anonymously if they want. It's a Google form. What's going on for you? Has COVID affected you or your family? And what are you hoping from me and from this class? And that's not obviously like evaluation data. That's like, I'm asking parents if they choose to spend time, if I'm going to ask them to do any time on any survey whatsoever, it's going to be in the service of them.
mm-hmm.
And I have small classes. I have a few enough that I'm able to, not everybody does it. And the people who've done it, it's been awesome for really providing me a little more context that I normally would get through like interacting with people and just the incidental stuff that you're not getting. And then also it's an opportunity for people to share, like, I'm a cancer survivor, or we're going through a divorce, and it's ugly and I can't talk about it. You know, like just the big stuff that's helpful to know when you're supporting people. And so I encourage people to consider that if they're thinking about surveying. That would be a survey that would meet needs of not our schools, but our families, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I have replied by email to each of them saying, I got your survey. Good for you. I'm so sorry. Have you considered, just a little bit of a touch so that they know that I read it. It's been really enriching for my relationships with parents in this environment.
And I just posted in the chat the survey that I made last spring.
Mm-hmm.
So feel free to have a look at that.
Sarah,
I don't even remember what's on it. I just pulled it out of my Google Docs and threw it in there. So
Sarah, could you kind of either put in the chat the questions that you asked, because that would be a really helpful thing.
Oh, you bet. Yep, and I tailored them for each class, but I will grab one and just drop it in here. Hold on.
I also wanted to respond to Carrie's question. Is anyone anywhere happy with this option right now? What? Not in my world. I teach a couple of classes, and I know that Shelley does too, that we're focused to be outside, and we can't do that anymore. And so I went to each group before we separated, before I went to digital learning, and asked them what do they need, what's going to work for them, how can we keep them engaged. One class wanted everything focused on the kids. So and I mentioned this 2 weeks ago, you guys, you know this. And so that has worked really well. The other one, we're building more STEM things so that, again, projects that the dads and their kids can work on at home while with other people. So that's helping. I don't know that happiness is my goal anymore. It's staying connected is the goal.
Yeah, and I would wonder if you asked people in September if their responses would be the same now.
Right.
You know, as time goes by, as their school districts have flexed in terms of in class, not in class, you know, just their own mental health needs may have shifted. They're anticipating the holidays. Now they're hearing about the vaccine, whatever. So, I mean, that's the other challenge is, you know, our traditional thing of doing, like, I'll do a pre-course assessment. You can do a pre-semester assessment, but it's so not a normal time that, yeah.
One of the situations I had this week was, again, teaching a virtual class. And there are 3 parents in this class. 2 had emailed the day before and said, I can't make it. I have this or I have that, and I couldn't come. So we had 1. And so we emailed that parent and said, lucky you get us one-on-one. What can we do for you? How can we, you know, and her response was, oh, I'm so glad we need this, yada, yada, yada. She went on in her story. And we ended up starting class late because she had to put her other child, get their DL learning, working out in their home. And then during the time we had her in class on Zoom, her youngest child had a wonderful, beautiful, ugly, messy meltdown. And this mom did not turn off her computer. She kept it going, and we watched the whole thing. It was awkward. It was important. We saw great skills. We were, you know, she stayed calm, even though inside her guts going like this, but she modeled so many wonderful things. And sometimes it was a great model of how you just have to go through the feeling before you can get anywhere else. And so that's one of the good things that's come out of this. I don't know that she would consider it good, but teacher, it was a gift to see that. It was hard to watch, but it came out.
Did you happen to videotape that?
No way.
Anybody else, like, this is normal. It's okay. This happens. Like, and here's an example of what we do.
Yeah. And to watch her practice emotion coaching skills with her child, and she's got some kids who have special, they just experience the world in their own way. And so it was really cool to see this happen, but that was just that family. So, yeah.
Well, it was kind of great for her to get validation from you that she's using those skills, you know, just that reminder of, oh, I saw you do this, or, you know, however you handled it. I'm sure it was good for her to hear that from you.
We hope so.
That reminds me of the home visit families. And I think this has been going really well with a lot of them who have gotten used to it. And Karen's examples, like that kind of stuff is what is happening. And when you brought up, you know, some of the positives. So if typically before I was on a home visit, and sometimes there's other teachers or other team members there, if they're on a special education plan and something like that would happen, the parent would want the teacher to do it. And some of the teachers want to do it because and well-intentioned, right? Like, I'm going to model, but then sometimes the parent can be like, well, the teacher can do it better than I can. Mm-hmm. And ideally, like in that infant mental health model, we somehow want the parent to be able to do it, not us for them and all of that. Well, you can't when you're on a Google Meet.
That's right.
So all you can do is exactly what you're supposed to do under that model, is be with the parent, help them regulate and talk them through it, help them be with the child. So sometimes those moments are just really great having you on video. It's almost like that type of therapy. I can't remember what it's called, where the parent has a speaker in their ear and they're with the parent and the therapist is in another room watching and just sort of coaching them through what's going on. It's kind of what you can do when you're on those one-on-one Google Meets with families. So yeah, that's a good thing. Those are good things.
So can I say thank you for supporting me in my emotional breakdown? Like a child having a temper tantrum or whatever, that emotion that came, I apologize in some ways. I know it's not necessary, but yeah, I didn't know that tears were going to come, right? And so how many of us and how many of our children are all walking through something similar at this time? It just kind of, it can creep up on you and it can surprise us. And I know that we shut down sometimes in our processing and our thinking it because we have to feel it. And then we can move forward in with a plan to kind of to help our families, to help ourselves, to all move forward in this time. So you guys are awesome, and you guys have so many beautiful experiences that you can encourage families with, no matter what it looks like. If it's going to be online, on a telephone call, an email, maybe it's something from a distance when they're picking up a bag of supplies for activities for the next 2 weeks, whatever it looks like. You guys are doing awesome work, and thank you for being who you are. It's really, really good.
Say the same thing to yourself, Greta.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're doing good work too.
You're going to make me cry, Greta, just saying.
We're all going to
Greta-
be crying here.
Greta, that little bubble of grief or emotion that like sort of percolates up and surfaces at unexpected times. I had that experience listening to this podcast that I just linked. It's another Ask Elisa Demora, how do you handle the holidays in a pandemic? And it talks about, I was listening to it on a dog walk, and before I know it, I'm just bawling. And she's just talking about reckoning with the ambiguous loss and just the grief that it's not going to be the same this year. I listened to it before Thanksgiving, but it certainly applies to Christmas too, as you guys were saying earlier. And I recommend it. And it's been helpful for me to support a couple of parents, but also just personally helpful because I was like, oh, well, look at this. Where is this coming from? My dog is, like, what are you doing, Mom? Like, I just need a minute. But I didn't think it was in there. I didn't know it was in there for me. So it was helpful. So I recommend, it's better to get that stuff out.
Well, thank you, Sarah. And your words are always so well spoken, and they have such depth to them.
Oh, goodness.
I appreciate when you share what's going on and how you've kept perspective on so many things in the last few months. So
thank you.
I love that percolating. I love that bubble. It's just, yeah, it's rich. It's full. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I just, I'm reflecting on what Greta was saying. A couple of things was, I was just going to type it in, and during the workshop in late September, I mentioned the term instructor presence, and one of the things, and then I'm also thinking about, about this sort of idea of sort of consistency and availability without intensity, maybe. And I think what I mean by that is just letting, I think it was Anne who mentioned about doing the cards to families, just, I think having that little bit of a reminder that you're still around. It doesn't have to be an intensive class. It doesn't have to be a Zoom session. I think that for so many families, it is just that reminder that you are there in their world because you have such an important presence to them. I mean, everything that Greta was just saying about what you all offer to families, I mean, that's what they come back for. And I don't think that you're recognized nearly enough for that because it's almost like an intangible quality. And it honestly is one of those things that I will send announcements to my students between classes and then once over the weekend between a Thursday and a Tuesday class. And a lot of that is just a reminder of me, like that I'm still there. And usually there's some content. but students have said to me how valuable that was, and then afterwards, and it's just like keeping, there's that thing with about the child in mind. Let's say it's like keeping your parenting educator in mind. It's just like, I feel better about myself in the world because I know that this person exists, that this person is there. And so one, I want you all to hold, that the value that you have for families, but at the same time, almost like sending out the cards, like that your sense of sending those out isn't a matter of burden on them, right? That you have these expectations that you're only sending it out because you want to draw them into classes. It's just you're sending them out because you're sending them out and you want them to know you're thinking of them, right? And the same thing, is like, and for you to do that, that doesn't mean you have to work harder. Like you have to do more. You're already doing so much. But just sending out any little bit of thing is, I think, so incredibly important for families now that they have you. And this is something that I think that virtual technology does really well, because we can get simple little things out. It could be a GIF, it can be a Bitmoji, it can be a little quote, it can be whatever, and you can send it to their phone, you can send it through their email, through a Facebook page, through Parentopia post, whatever. And it's just like, oh, that was easy to do and a nice reminder.
Susan, that's a really good reminder, because I think last spring I had been using Seesaw for 2 years. And when spring hit, that's when I was like throwing things out there on Seesaw a lot, just little things, came across this, thought about this, put a little video up even. And I did that stuff last spring. But when we got back in person this fall, I'm like, I am putting it all right here in the moment with you all. I don't even think some of my families really know what Seesaw is yet. And now we're going to digital again. And I'm like, so why I said all that was, I think I did that in the past, but then I hadn't been doing those little things on Seesaw. And I think that is a great tool. I'm going to think through that, because I didn't want to have to use Seesaw, honestly. I just wanted to get rid of it and put it in the recycle bin, because I wanted just to be with the people in person. But it's a good, thank you. That's a really, really good reminder. Just to have those little pieces here and there, whatever form that looks like.
Well, we've been using our Seesaw we've been reading our stories on our Seesaw for ECFE families. We've been doing, what I mean, even just so we can, and we hear comments of like, the little people want to watch it over and over again. And I know we're all about non-screens and whatnot, but I mean, right? So even like, and they want to see you, Greta. Like they actually want to, I mean, I know we have great, links to wonderful parenting stuff, but they want to hear like your voice. They want to have you sing the song. They want to have, so know that too. Like, I know, I hate it too, but yeah, I know.
But it's not that hard you can do a pre-recording, right? It could be just a 1 minute, one of my friends forwarded this app of, what's it called? Marco Polo, right? I mean, it can be just a 1 minute standing in front of your holiday tree or, your file cabinet. Yeah. And just saying hi, and then, and then sending it out. So it's your voice, it's your presence, and then they can see it whenever.
Yeah.
I showed my friends my chickens. I showed my friends my chickens.
I love your chickens, Sarah.
Thanks.
They're awesome. One of the things I have sitting on my desk or on a table right over there right now are the 7 packets that never got picked up by 7 different families. And I was thinking, how can I get these to them? I could bring them to them, but now, Susan, I am going to follow through with something I had in the back of my head is videotape. I've got your packet. It's right here waiting. Please contact me right now. As soon as you see this, just say whatever, just a quick little, but with their personal packet right from me videoing it. So thank you. That's inspiring.
Quick question for someone who does little little things like that, do you do it on Group Me or text or email or Seesaw, or has someone found a quick and easy way? And if you do, I'm just thinking if I start texting my parents, would I want to get permission from them first? Or just go for it?
Ellen?
We have Seesaw. Sorry. Our families are all connected to Seesaw. So I can do a little video blurb and send it and then post it in all of my classes. So that's how we communicate. I'm really glad that we have that.
And have you found that to be a barrier at all? Because it's not like a text, or, because it's a new thing, or not?
No, I mean, and it's an app on their phone. Yeah. Our school district uses Seesaw too. We actually, our early childhood started first. So we've done it for like five years, I think now. And then our K through 2 started using it a year ago. And so most of our families have been using it, but yeah, I mean, I haven't ran into families that are registered that don't have we have a smartphone. So if we did, obviously that would be a huge barrier. And then, yeah, we would meet them phone wise. I find email the way that people do not want to communicate with me. So yeah.
Sarah, they on their app, they get a little number, like a notification that they have something? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Seesaw sets up all, like, they can have all their kiddos' classes in there. And then, yep, they get like a little notification and going back and forth. I mean, they can privately message. So yep, they get stuff for their class. We can do activities through there. Yeah, all of that. So it's been helpful. And I can video right on the Seesaw app too. So when you're talking about like having to upload and all that stuff, you just like click the video button. Hey y'all. So
I'm in a district now that uses Seesaw, and I haven't before. So there's a learning curve for me. I just need to work on it.
And then Ellen and Greta, you were talking, I know a couple weeks ago, we were talking too about Remind as a program. Then you can you send video messages too? No?
I will link.
You can link, right, Ellen? But then they have to have the program that you're linking them to.
Yeah. So I link everything to Google Docs. And so if I'm going to send a link, so Remind is really nice. So you can say, hey family, you send out an email and say, hey families, I'm going to be sending out texts and ideas and things to do. If you want to be in that, here's the code. And then they sign up with the code. And then I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that I opened a Google Voice account. I was without a phone. Well, we couldn't go into our building from March. And then we moved buildings this summer. And then my phone wasn't hooked up until about 2 weeks ago. So for 6 months, I couldn't access my office phone. So I opened a Google Voice account. But at the bottom of my signature in my email, I will say, if you have any questions, email or text me at the number below. And I've had families text me, not my own personal number, but my Google Voice account. And that has gone really, really well, because I do get some families who will text me in that way.
Ellen, you should send out your signature because it's awesome. She's got a link like, do you want to take classes? And she's got the link right to their website to register for classes. I copied your signature out, not your name, but but everything else about it. I was like, oh, I like that. Oh, I like that. Oh, I like that. So
that explains all the phone calls from Cambridge Isanti. I've been going decline. Yeah.
Okay. I use the Google Voice too, and at the end of I even make it bigger. Like I do the font bigger for the number and highlight it too, and say, call or text, just if you need anything. And they do use it.
I'm updating my signature as we speak.
Yeah, Erica, I think a lot of it is, finding something that has the features that you want, right? And then something that's easy for you to use. I mean, even better if your school district supports it. So if you need any tech support, you can get it. But if not, whether it's something like Google Voice or Remind or something like that, or Seesaw, that it's something that you feel comfortable using. And then the big trick, and I think people have talked about this, is just getting families on. So something that you know, if there's a centralized option that the program is using, families are more likely to just kind of connect because it's their only way of contact for information to the program and teachers and that sort of thing, sort of like Sarah's talking about Seesaw. And, but it can be a trick if it's something you're using to make sure that families are on, like that they can access it. It's something that works on their phones or whatever, and sort of that lowest common denominator of what is that technology that's going to be easy to use that families are going to, you know, and, but once you hit that sweet spot, I would just say stay with it, because not every, you know, try not to give up on technology too quickly, because just because a family, you know, not 100% of your families are using it, because it takes, you know, it does take some rollout. But the payoff generally has been pretty high, I think, for finding something that's efficient. And like you said, people are saying, you know, we don't default to continuing using something like email if we know people aren't using it, but it's sort of toughing out that, but then what is that thing? So
I like what Sarah said. So Seesaw is what this district uses. So if I get them started using Seesaw now, that'll be familiar as they get older, which is great too. So good point. I just got to get myself to learn it, which I can do. And I'm Anna, by the way. I don't know why it says my husband's name on the.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So Anna, there's a ton on YouTube of Seesaw tutorials, like a ton of stuff on there. Easy peasy.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just shared, we had a meeting, meeting today. One of our teachers shared this app just for teachers on like self-care and stress reduction and stuff. So I stuck that in our chat if you guys want to look at it. I just downloaded it, and I don't know, it's kind of neat. It's just for teachers. And I was thinking, you know, we're working on the self-care business, friends. And it's, you know, works on a lot of like breathing, meditation type of stuff, check-in kind of thing. But I thought I would share since I got it shared to me this morning.
Thanks,
Sarah. Well, and speaking of self-care, I found somebody to do some like reflective supervision and practice. And I know some of you I've asked if you're interested. So if anybody, it would be a group thing. We would be paying out of our own pocket, but I found somebody in town who does this. So if anybody's interested in that, a couple of you I've talked to, but if like Sarah, I don't think you were on that. I think I sent it out to the whole group though, the perfect group. So yeah, if anybody is, yeah, I did. Okay. Just making sure. You guys, I can't remember what I did and what I didn't do, but anyway, I'm meeting with Nate next week to talk about what that would look like. So I'll have some more information for you all on that soon.
Okay. Great. All right. Well, we're at 1 o'clock. Yep, and a few people have been needing to leave anyway. So I guess we'll wrap up for today. But we're meeting again next week and forever or whatever, I don't know. But anyway, so I guess we should at some point talk to see if Fridays are still working for the majority of people, but we'll continue through December. So so thank you, everybody. I don't know about you, but today's meeting just went like that. Like all of a sudden I looked up and it was just like, oh my gosh, it's almost 1 o'clock. So thank you all. And just a reminder, this was recorded. A little recording has been on, but I'll be sharing it on YouTube too with our playlist. So if you know anybody who couldn't attend and would like to listen in, and what I've been trying to do is sort of go through our chat too and find some of, not the whole chat, but just links, some of the links that have been shared, just to get those out there with folks too. So just going ahead, if you ever share something and you don't want it more widely, you know, like I don't know, something to a personal page or something like that, please let me know.
Or a mental breakdown like me.
That's right. Yeah, Greta, are you okay for me sharing this?
I'm fine. Vulnerability, right? It's real. We're real people. So thanks for asking. But yeah, I'm good.
All right. All right. Well, thank you all. You're great. I hope you have a wonderful week. And we'll see you next Friday, whatever that date is, the 10th or 11th or something. So
11th.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.